Good evening and welcome to This Is The Day. My name is Sarah Otieno. We are live on Family TV, also live on Family Radio, where the music does the talking. The WhatsApp number that you use to contact us from is 0786 316 316. SMS line 20316. An SMS is only 1 shilling, so we can get to interact together. I want us to look at the updates of the COVID-19, and we will go straight to the global statistics now. Currently, as it stands right now, the total number of cases stand at 3,163,755, and the total number of deaths are 397. We have recovered cases that right now the total number of people that have recovered from COVID-19 are 975,927. Now let us look at some of the countries that are topping the list when it comes to COVID-19. Russia again has topped the list of the new cases today, just like yesterday and the day before. Today they've recorded 5,841 new cases, followed closely by Spain with 4,771, and we have the USA at position 3 with 1,733 new cases in the last 24 hours. Saudi Arabia is also at position 4 with 1,325 new cases. We have Mexico with 1,223, but we also have Iran with 1,073 new cases in the last 24 hours. Let us look at the number of deaths, and Spain is topping the list in the last 24 hours. And let us note that worldwide 1,584 people have lost their lives in the last 24 hours because of COVID-19. Spain topping the list with 453 cases. We have Belgium with 170. We also have Netherlands with 145. We have Mexico with 135. And we have the USA with 110 cases. Well, these are not just figures. These are people that have lost their lives because of the COVID-19 pandemic only in the last 24 hours. But there is hope, because the number of recovered cases are also something to give us encouragement. Look at this. Totally, the number of recovered cases in the last 24 hours, in worldwide that is, right now we have 975,927, and we have the USA topping the list with recovered cases with 143,098, followed closely by Spain with 132,929. So there is hope when you compare the number of deaths to the number of recovered cases still top the list. Now that is what has been happening globally. Now let's come back to our country, and today 10 more cases of coronavirus have been recorded in Kenya today peke yake, and that is according to the Health Chief Administrative Secretary Dr. Mercy Mwangangi, and she says Kenya now registers 384 cases.
In the last 24 hours, we have tested a total of 508 samples from 14 counties. Out of this number, 10 tested positive for coronavirus, and of these, 9 are from Mombasa and 1 from Nairobi. This brings to total 384 total number of positive cases in the country. We are glad that the number of recoveries keeps rising day by day. And today we've discharged an additional 5 patients, and this brings to the number of total recoveries 129.
Well, even in our country, the number of recoveries is rising day in, day out, and that is something that we should be grateful for. Now, the government has also made a clarion call to Kenyans to warmly accept all the coronavirus recovered patients that come back into the society after being faced with so many challenges. And they are saying that they have received cases of stigmatization. Now, of concern by the government is that there would be a decline in the number of people who are willing to come forward and be tested for the COVID-19 for fear of facing the same fate.
We have reports of stigmatization by members of the community for our recovered cases. And this is unfortunate, considering our constant appeal and massive education to ensure that people are accepted back in the community. Just this morning, fellow Kenyans, we had a briefing with one of our recovered cases from ICU, a gentleman who was able to recover from coronavirus disease. And as he was sharing his story with us, he's given us disturbing events with regard to how he's been accepted back in the community, issues and experiences that have not been pleasant for him and his family. And we need to appeal to you and to remind us all that the only way we can be able to beat this disease is if we avoid issues like stigmatization.
Well, we will retaliate what the CAS has said on the issue of stigmatization. The only way we can beat COVID-19 is to avoid such cases. We will be talking to a parent about the issue of private schools and their call to the Ministry of Education about the payment of cash and what they call school fees for the online sessions for their children. Now, the push and pull on the Nairobi County governorship has been a problem. And right now, the Nairobi Governor, Mike Sonko, has protested the withdrawal of about 20 drivers and guards that were attached to his office by the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Now, he says this has left him with only bodyguards, and the governor's spokesperson, Ben Mulwa, said they were not consulted when the decisions were being made.
So it would only be decent and it would only be courteous for somebody to communicate that we are looking to transfer, or we are seeking this number of officers from the city inspectorate to the NMS. Can you guide us to identify the officers so that you do not affect critical services like the security of the governor? As a shock that actually the assembly had chosen on their own volition to allocate monies to functions that are still under the Nairobi City County government and transferring them to the NMS. I'll give you examples. Like the city inspectorate is not part of what was transferred. Finance and economic planning is not a part of what was transferred. Agriculture and many other departments, ICT, are not anywhere near the functions that were transferred. So out of malice, because that is our standpoint, out of malice, the assembly chose to build or to generate their own budget, discuss their own budget, and submit, pass their own budget and then submit it to the governor too. He needs to have food rotting in the stores here, yet there are starving families in Nairobi, and just somebody somewhere who sits in a government office, who earns a salary paid by the same Kenyans, does not want those people to receive the food. We find that to be extremely unfortunate.
Well, as the wrangle is going on between the Nairobi County and the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, parents are also locked in a battle with private school owners and managers over fee following the unprecedented closure of learning institutions worldwide due to the coronavirus pandemic. Now, some institutions are accused of taking advantage of this pandemic to charge extra fee for online classes, and that they are offering to mitigate the nationwide closure of schools that face a serious cash crunch as fees in their main revenue stream. Now, we talked to one of the parents. His name is Philip Mwalui, and he talked to us about what the parents are feeling and their proposition about this matter. Good evening, Philip.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Great.
Now, let us talk about this issue by the private schools, where we've heard of cases where different private schools have actually asked parents to part with some money and give out some money to the schools for the sake of the online classes and online sessions. Have you been a victim of the same?
Well, personally, I wouldn't say it's being a victim of something, because I think we need to be cognizant that things have to be done for me, I felt that having online classes is not new, because there are many universities all over the world that have been doing online classes all over the globe, and people have been paying a lot of money for it. So I'm thinking you're not really paying. Sometimes you're paying for the intellectual property for that teacher. So it really doesn't matter whether they are online or not, because they already had a relationship with your kid. And for some of us parents, we've realized we cannot be teachers. We need these teachers. We cannot be working and at the same time parenting, and at the same time we are teaching our kids. Remember, it's a different dispensation we are in. So the only match for me are a morning snack. They have swimming, they have other extracurricular activities. So those fees should not be included in these fees. At least those ones should not. It should be just tuition. And that's it. My take. I think for me, that's how I feel in terms of the online schooling.
All right. So if I'm getting you right, Philip, you are for the idea, but it should not be to an extent of paying for extracurricular activities, just for tuition.
I just feel that it's only fair for the schools to only charge for the tuition, because that will go back to the school to pay the teachers, because they have bills to pay. That will go back to the school. So let's not forget they're also humans, and we have to find a way. We have to come up with a way of working these things out. But I'm not advocating for really paying for like 100% school fees and schools taking advantage of this situation.
All right, because we've seen other schools dropping it to about, cutting the fee to about 20%, others are cutting to 40%. Maybe in your school, and if you're not comfortable mentioning names, then that's understandable. But what percentage has it been reduced to?
Yeah, for us, it's normally different, because we already have tuition fees that is always separate. So that makes everything easier for us to work out. We know that tuition fee will cover the materials, the resources, that the percentage that has not been paid is what we normally, it's like what we call extras. So for us, paying for the tuition, it's not a percentage of the entire fees, because it's normally separate. And I think that's a good idea. It's good for parents to know exactly when you're given your school fee structure for your child, you need to like look at it and see what the itemized bill, to see this is for tuition, this is for this is for this, so that when you agree, you can't blanket 20%, because when you say 20%, it's 20% of everything, including that swimming and going to.
All right. Thank you so much, Philip, for sharing your experience, and I wish you all the best.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much. I'm glad
to have has been Philip
ideas.
And just on addition to that, the Kenya Private School Association CEO by the name Peter Ndoro. There is Peter Ndoro and there is Philip Mwalui. Peter Ndoro, who is the CEO of the Kenya Private School Association, said that the online platforms and the new programs and new packages different from the regular tuition, that is to keep learners engaged, and that is why they are charging that amount of money. But as Philip said earlier, it is important for parents to actually be on the lookout for the fee structures, and according to him, it is only fair to pay for the tuition fee and not the extracurricular activities. I want to hear from you if you have also experienced this. If you have children in the private sector, have you also been asked to pay some amount of money, and what is your view on this? The WhatsApp number 0786 316 316, SMS line 20316. We'll be talking a bit later about the issue of floods, and we have more than 100 people who have lost their lives following the heavy rains that are being experienced across the country. We have Vincent Mulinge from Thika, and you're saying the government should help parents from exploitation by private schools and set a maximum amount of fees to be paid. Asante sana, Vincent, for tuning in. Esi Kimenyi, thank you so much for tuning in today. We also have Alan, who is saying, I have children in one of the private schools in Kenya. I have been asked to pay only less by 30%. That means I am still paying 70% of the total amount of fees that I usually pay. Mark you, I already completed the first term payment. So this caters for the second term that is yet to start. Well, these are just some of the cases, and I also want to know if you have any case and you've experienced any case of exploitation, especially in the private school, and that is what they're calling exploitation. Now, over 100 Kenyans have been killed by floods, and this is just in the last 2 weeks. And this is word from the government. Now, speaking during a press briefing today, the Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa said 116 people have lost their lives to the ongoing floods that are caused by the heavy rainfall in different parts of the country. He also noted that more than 100,000 people have been displaced in up to 29 counties across the country.
We have had over 116 lives lost to floods. We have also had over 100,000 households displaced. So we are urging that this humanitarian crisis that we are facing, even as we face it, let us work with the Ministry of Health and all the guidelines that have been given. We've been working very, very closely, both levels of government, to deal with these situations, and indeed they have done a wonderful job.
Well, let us also remember our brothers and sisters that are affected by the floods in the country. You know, someone was telling me that COVID-19 has been spoken about so much that we forget there are other people that are suffering because of the heavy rains. Let us keep them in our prayers. Now, this effort to address the COVID-19 pandemic is both extremely important for us all and poses a range of challenges on individuals and families as they respond to the very much demanding situation of this pandemic. Now, during this time, it is important to have someone you can listen to or even give advice when needed to avoid what sometimes may lead to mental health issues. Now, that is where support groups come in handy. We had a chat with one Alex Mwatha, who is a life coach, and also we had to talk to Jen Kitusa on how support groups can come in handy and how they can help people during this pandemic time. Alex and Jen, and I will start with you. Just being a life coach, what are some of the challenges that this pandemic and this trying time can bring to a person?
This being unprecedented situation that we find ourselves in, and I call it a season, is a trying season, not a difficult season, but a trying season, where something has affected the entire globe. What happened is that a couple of things, of course, happens that people become uncertain of the future. They become uncertain even of what will happen next. We have the lockdowns. Almost 4 billion people are under lockdown and people are at home. So which means that the stress levels start building up because of the whole fact of uncertainty. So this is one time when I encourage people to do a lot of reading. A lot of looking at other, like something to divert you from that feeling that you are all alone, that you are lonely, and all that. Yeah. Because stress levels can go up at this particular time. You also know that because a lot of people are staying at home, the business has really dropped. General businesses are doing about 30 to 40% of their normal business, which means that that a lot of businesses are laying off people. Number two, a lot of businesses are cutting. Sorry, I think there's no single company except the one.
Hello, Sir Alex.
Most businesses will go towards reducing salaries for the workers. And that brings a big challenge for people, because people are uncertain whether they'll be sacked or they'll be laid off. People are uncertain what happens when my salary is reduced by up to 50%. So really it's a moment where there's a lot of stress that comes to people, especially the breadwinners in families.
Wow, I like your point.
The children, the children have been at home since March, mid-March. Yes. They have just been told that they will stay home again for another 1 month. So there's also anxiety as to what is all, trying to understand what is this thing and what will they do about it.
Okay, so if I'm getting you clearly, and Jen, you can help us in this point. So Sir Alex has talked about looking for something to do, and he proposed reading amongst other things. But you have interacted with so many people, and especially in support groups. Mm-hmm. And do you think this will help, especially during this time?
Sarah, now the current problem, like Alex has put it clearly, it's a pandemic. Mm-hmm. It was unprecedented. Nobody was prepared for it. Mm-hmm. And now what happens is, yes, support groups are good. They're very helpful. But currently now we look at the characteristics of a support group is the opposite of what is happening now. Social distancing. Yeah. A support group, you're together, you're focused maybe on one topic, there's one issue that you're all looking at. And let's say, for example, if we were to have a support group now, we'd be looking at maybe issues on anxiety, issues on fear, issues on losses. We have losses of job, we have losses, like Alex is saying, the economy is actually operating at a very low percentage. Yeah. Jobs are being cut down. And so if you were to come up with a support group, yes, you need to be together because proximity is very important when you're near each other in a support group because you share a certain point and you walk through it. But now currently, having a support group may be a bit of out of the normal. Yeah. Because how do you meet? Right now, even in the church being one of what I would call a big support group, we are not meeting in the church. Yes. Because of the distancing that is needed, because of the contact, the physical contact that we're supposed to avoid. And so, yes, support groups are good, but currently now we have to think outside the box. I like that. And I think, right now, I think instead of thinking of support groups, maybe we need to be looking at what's your social network as much as within you. Because again, let's say like now we talk of, yes, a support group maybe could go through maybe Zoom, but how many people have the resources to carry that? All right. So these are times when now we have to reach out, actually purpose to reach out to those you can remember, those who mean something to you, reach out. Like we're seeing abroad, my daughter was reminding me that they're actually opening windows and talking to your neighbor. That's nice. Reach a point, just to reach out, open your window, open your door, talk. You don't need to be together, have your mask, find out how they are, get a call someone, find out how they are doing, SMS, do a WhatsApp, but we have now to purpose to form a group, a support group that has never been, a support group that is just sort of virtual. All right. So, Mr. Alex, yes. I want you to help us on this issue. Now, with this pandemic, it has brought another challenge, the fear of the unknown. No one knows tomorrow. True.
What I like telling people is that even without the pandemic, no one knows tomorrow. As human beings, sometimes we think that when the problem comes, it introduces us to new things. Yeah. The pandemic has not introduced us to new things. The pandemic is introducing us to ourselves. And the way I would like to advise the listeners is this. This is a moment for a reset. But businesses will reset the way they have done their businesses. That's why they're reducing their staff. They are working from home. We're doing a lot of Zoom meetings now, as opposed to physical visit to clients and all that. It means that even in our personal life, we must reset. We must sit back and start thinking, what is that most important thing in my life that I need to do? Yeah. Because in the world we have been, the previous world. This is the new world.
This is the new world, the new norm.
Yes, we determine our worth by what we had. Today, it doesn't matter what you have, you stay at home. No one is flying around. People will go outside and come back and boast that I was in UK, I was wherever. Yeah. Today, if you tell people you're in the UK, they'll run away from you.
Oh, yes.
It's in the new world order. And what I would like to tell the listeners is that what a moment for us to reset ourselves, to reset our lives, to be able to start asking ourselves, what really matters in my life? Is a key question one is to ask at this time. Is an uncertain, and that's why you must ask that question.
Okay.
What is important in my life in this new movement? Say, for example, you've been earning, say, 50,000 shillings per month. You'll be living with beyond that, because we all live beyond our means.
Yeah, unfortunately.
That's why very unfortunately, that's why the backdoor, I call them the backdoor lenders, people who charge you up to 5% per month, which is 60% per year.
Yeah.
Do you know that does more business than the banks on the individual level? Yet the bank only follows up the central bank only follows up the bank, because we live beyond our means. This is a time to say, look, I was earning 50,000. Now, because of this, I'll earn 25,000. What is it I need to change in my life to adjust to fit within that 25,000?
Wow.
And it's a real question, because we caught up in a situation where you have no option. You have no choice. It is not you who determines. The world has determined. For me, I say God has given us an opportunity to reset.
Wow.
If you don't reset now, you will never reset. You have so much with you. You must go back to your rooms and find out, what is it that I don't need? Do I need to have 10 shirts? Or do I need only 3?
Okay.
What do I really need? And this is a moment to be able to do that. So for me, the uncertainty in tomorrow, for me, requires us to reset our lives so that we can determine what's most important and then use that to be able to run the future.
Wow.
This will come and go. Pandemic will come and go. But let it not find us in climbing the same mountain. We must change the mountain that we've been climbing and climb a mountain that brings out the best out of us.
All right. So, Jen, I want us to tackle the issue of mental health. And it's very unfortunate that the numbers are growing in our country. And some of these contributing factors are what Mr. Alex is pointing out, and the tough decisions that we have to make and the drastic changes. So the issue of mental health, and not only affecting grown-ups, even children. So how can we actually help to deal with this?
Sarah, that's very important right now. Our mental health is actually at the greatest test, being strained to the match, because mental health is just the level of psychological well-being, emotionally. And you find that right now, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of what does tomorrow bring.
Yeah.
Right now, so many people are losing their jobs. Others' businesses have gone down. The income that was there at home is no longer there. The children are watching us and they're wondering, how affected are we? Will I go back to school when it comes with the fees? The parent is worried, will I put food on the table? Others, the rent. We've seen people even their doors being removed.
Yeah, sure.
Can you imagine when your door is removed and you have children in that house? How is that affecting? That is traumatizing enough. The doors of the other children have not been removed. Their door has been removed. What is going through? What is that child processing? And so right now there's a lot of strain on our mental health. And it's a time when everybody, literally everybody, father, mother, grandmother, the child, just maybe the newborn, who is maybe not affected, but maybe now depending on what's the position of the new mother. Hoping that they don't go into postnatal depression. And so everybody has been touched emotionally, psychologically. So it's a moment where we have to call in ourselves and go through, call your spirit of resilience. Because like Alex said, everybody is affected across the world. And so, for instance, right now, how are we communicating our feelings? Are we creating that space where a child can express their fears?
Okay.
Or are we too fearful as parents to even listen to what they're communicating? Are we having a space where we can sit and actually discuss, what does this mean after, if there's a post-COVID, and I'm a believer of post-COVID season. And so as we come out of this, the child is wondering, the anxiety is over how is their school going to be. For example, take those who are candidates. We have class 8s and form 4s, and many other colleges are just preparing for their exams. And they're back at home. Are they even reading? they've read until now they don't know what else to read. And that now becomes another cause of anxiety. And so it's a space where I feel like, because everybody is holed up somewhere with their loved ones, it's a time where we just create that space and listen to each other, what is being said verbally and non-verbally, and read out and react and process together.
Wow.
Because remember, post-COVID, we have to come out of it together, not having left some. Because sometimes we tend to think children, they are okay because there is food on the table, but they're listening. And children are actually having what we're calling associated fear and anxiety. Out of our conversations, they are listening. And they can hear what we are saying. Even if we are talking in harsh tones, sometimes they will see. They will wake up today and read your mood. Your mood is, today I don't feel like talking because I'm processing maybe the info I've been given. Take a family whose income has been cut by 75%. And we don't want to talk of what was the X. What is this that has been cut at 75%? The bills have not been cut. If your salary is cut at 75%, or you've actually lost it, your landlord still needs you to pay.
Yeah.
The basic needs are still awaiting provision because there's what we call the basic necessities. The children still need. Remember moving these children out of the lifestyle they were used to. As grown-ups, we may adjust, but how soon will the children adjust?
Yeah.
And you see, we can also not force them to adjust, that it's time to adjust. There's COVID. Yes, there's COVID. One was asking, so, I mean, you've been able to tackle other things. Why
not COVID?
Diseases. Why are you people not able to tackle COVID? Because in their understanding, we don't know whether they are understanding the nature of COVID. It's the whole world. And so, Sarah, I think what is there is that for me, let's process this as a household, whoever you're holed up with, your loved ones. It's a time where families maybe have never experienced this proximity.
Yeah, sure.
Never been that together. And so let's take advantage of it. I'm a believer of taking my lemons and squeezing and making lemonade, however sour they sound. And so let's take this opportunity and also relate accordingly. There's a small child, maybe there's a teenager, there's a college, a young adult, there's a grown-up, because all grown-ups are with their, as long as they were not living alone. Even those who are living alone are back in their homes.
Yes, sure.
So let's work together as a family, process the anxiety, process the fears, process the emotional turbulence, so that our mental health, yes, it is affected, but let us work within ourselves, call up the spirit of resilience and help those, because we also don't process the same. There are those who are being left behind. Signs of depression, signs of moodiness. Let's be able to pick that.
Okay.
Praying that God will help us pick that and walk together.
Wow, I like that. I want us to finish with Mr. Alex. Kindly talk to that person who is giving up during this time. These cases are so many as we've looked at it, and some actually are willing to even give up, cases of suicide. So maybe a word of encouragement to these people.
I'd like to say the words of the Psalms 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. The Eastlands people like me came up with a sheng one that says, Sa God ni mtunguyas, sita haso na sita eat.
Wow.
Wow. At this particular moment, is a season that we are going through. And we need to internalize that this is a season that will come and go. I hear she said that she's a believer that this is a season that will come and go.
Yes.
Yes, it will come and go. There have been seasons like this in the world. The last one being the Spanish flu in 1918, that is estimated to kill about 50 million people at that time. The population of the world at that time was about less than 1 billion people. It was a huge chunk of people. We have better medical facilities, we have better everything. I'd like to request that we sit back and look at our lives and reset our lives. And a moment like this, be able to look inside us and find that special gem that God has put. Because each and every one of us has a special thing. In fact, when it hit David, he says in Psalms 139 and verse 13, this is the Father. He says that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous is your work, and my soul knows this very well. Every listener that is listening to me this afternoon, this evening also, is to know that you are specially made. That when you are created, God knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. And if he knew you, he prepared every single day of your life. He knew what will come. He knew that COVID will come at a time when you and I will be living in this world.
Yeah.
So I want us to focus on him and to trust that he is able to take us from one point to the next. And there are many stories in the Bible. That's why we talk about reading. You can know the man who was sitting near the cedar, near the pool, the blind people, the lepers and all that. That you and I are in the situations of those people, but God is able to be able to get us out of that if only we focus on our ability to change life.
Wow.
Nothing will happen to us unless we change the way we are thinking. And the way we must think is to think that God has kept us here for a purpose, and God will take us out of this season. He will take us out of this season.
Yes, he will.
Let's trust him to take us out of this season. So in the meantime, reset your life. Think, what is the best thing that you can do? What is it that in your heart of hearts you feel that you're capable of doing, that you feel joy doing?
Yeah.
That could be the purpose of your life, and you might have been going in the wrong direction. Reset and go to the direction that the Lord would like you to go.
Wow, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for the word of encouragement.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you, Jen and Alex. Asanteni sana, and have a beautiful evening.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, Alex. Let's keep safe.
All right.
Nice meeting you.
Oh, nice meeting you, Alex. Bye, guys.
Pleasure meeting you.
And that was a very interesting conversation we had there with Alex and Jen, just telling us how it is tough, but we can do it. And on that note, we have Remy Kipchirchir talking about mental health. It is important that we talk about those issues that are bothering us and get to address the current situation, as we know that it cuts across every gender. Thank you so much for tuning in today, Remy. We also have Gladys, who is saying, hello, Sarah, I am tuned into This Is The Day. I love the discussion that you've been having about mental health and support groups. We formed one in our estate, and it's really helping, because right now, during this pandemic and that people are staying home, we all need each other to survive. Thank you so much, Gladys, for tuning in. I can also see your name is Pastor James, and you're saying, hello, Sarah. Thank you so much for that discussion on mental health, really helping a lot of people. Especially in my church congregation, I have received cases where people have complained that they are having issues but have no one to talk to. So mental support groups will really come in handy here, and it will help those that do not know where to air their views. Well, there is another interesting point that we need to look out for. My name is Eunice. I really love what the two speakers were talking about. Issue is, sometimes when you pour out your heart, you can be criticized, and that is what we talked about earlier. And they were talking about finding the right people. And during this time, as much as it is not possible, just try to find the right person to air your views. We have you did not give me your name, but thank you so much for tuning in. That is Alice, actually, from Machakos. And Alice is saying, I think to be fair for both parents and the workers in private schools, and thus this is in regards to the private school issue, at least the fees should be paid half, so also the workers be paid half salary, because we say the parents are being overburdened by paying the tuition fee. Then think of the teachers who are now on that compulsory leave without pay. And I understand they will try their level best to complete the syllabus. When they resume, they won't skip. Oh, thank you so much for your response on the issue of parents and private schools. Remy also says, it is really a shame that many parents are facing a huge burden to pay their parents, especially now. I know that the government needs to cushion the parents and avoid extra cost to levy when it comes to preparing for the examination. Thank you so much, guys, for your responses, and I appreciate it so very much. But now let's move on to some good news. Now, with the restaurants being closed due to the pandemic, millions of restaurants-related jobs have been lost, and no one knows if they will ever come back. You know, as we said earlier, no one knows tomorrow. Now, this is where one chef by the name Guy Fieri steps in. Now, he's raising funds to support those in the hotel industry cope with these tough times, while he's also setting up some makeshift restaurants for people in different states. And he is doing this even in churches, just to help people get this small food for the day.
To a degree, chefs were trained to make sure that we don't contaminate anybody in the process of producing food. At the end, what we do is very simple. We have one mission. We need to feed anybody that is hungry and bring water to anybody that is thirsty, and make it happen now.
My way to the NIH, to the Children's Hospital, to bring food today from Jaleo in partnership with World Central Kitchen. And in the way, we'll stop in some places that some people is sleeping on the street. And today is kind of cold, so we're going to make sure that we give them good hot food.
Know that we're doing what we've been doing, and that's serve, making sure that the people in our community have food. It has been said that over 1 billion people worldwide starve from a hunger issue that we have. So we're doing everything in our power to make sure that we combat the statistic that people will not survive in this COVID-19 pandemic because of an issue with food.
Behind me are the Rough Riders of YouthWorks. We're going to be, hey, there you go. They're our distribution partners. They are their own kitchen, their own job training program, and they're rocking out, 1,000 meals a day for kids on their own, and now they're taking another 800 meals out. So together we're doing close to 2,000 meals for kids every single day of the week here in Santa Fe and Santa Fe County. So rock on, here we go. Stay tuned for more.
And that is the spirit, helping your friend, helping your neighbor in every way possible. Just extend a helping hand. I want to tell you what we will be looking about tomorrow. Just a stipend. You know, Tanzania has been known to having things normally right now. So tomorrow we'll be looking at how Tanzania is, and it is assumed that things are just as they are, normal operation. So how are things happening in that country? That is tomorrow. So I'll catch you then live on Family TV, also live on Family Radio. But for now, that's it for today. My name is Sarah Otieno. Good evening.